a mysterious app appeared from nowhere and conquered America in just 12 months. It became the most downloaded shopping app, beating Amazon and Walmart. Hair ties for $1, 10 pairs of socks for under $4, prices so impossibly low that economists called it economically impossible. But behind the bargains was a dark secret that would destroy everything. Now Google searches for Temu have dropped 65% in 2 years. Their empire is crumbling, and it all comes down to one massive legal loophole. This is how Temu fooled the US government and why they're now paying the ultimate price. To understand Temu's rise, we need to go back to when online shopping was different. For years, if you wanted cheap products from China, you had limited options. AliExpress existed but took months to deliver anything. Then came Wish, promising the same cheap prices but faster delivery. Wish exploded in popularity with those weird social media ads you probably remember. But Wish had fundamental problems that would eventually kill it. In September 2022, Temu launched with a simple promise: shop like a billionaire. Their catalog was overwhelming, millions of products across every category imaginable. 50 hair ties for $1.17. 10 pairs of socks for $3.87. 6 lip balms for 97 cents, all mass-produced in Chinese factories. The quality wasn't amazing, but at those prices, nobody complained. Sometimes you'd get something surprisingly good that felt like winning the lottery. And if something broke or was terrible, you'd only lost a few dollars. This psychology of nothing to lose became Temu's biggest advantage. Temu's biggest competitor was Wish, which had pioneered the cheap Chinese imports market. Both platforms offered rock-bottom prices and products of questionable quality. But while Temu was exploding in growth, Wish was slowly dying. The key difference: Wish took 6 to 8 weeks to deliver anything. Temu promised delivery in just 2 weeks, still slow but revolutionary compared to Wish. Temu also offered much more variety, especially in fashion and trendy items. Most importantly, Temu's products actually looked like what you ordered. Wish users were abandoning the platform after too many products turned out to be complete scams. Temu learned from Wish's mistakes and actually delivered on their promises. The products weren't high quality, but they were exactly what Temu advertised. But Temu had something Wish never possessed: unlimited financial firepower. Just 5 months after launching, they bought 2 Super Bowl commercials. They became the youngest brand in history to advertise during America's biggest event. Behind Temu was PDD Holdings, a Chinese giant worth nearly $100 billion. PDD Holdings also owned Pinduoduo, China's equivalent of Amazon. They had perfected the art of selling cheap products to price-conscious consumers. In Temu's first 7 months, the app was downloaded 50 million times. By 2023, Temu became the world's most popular shopping app with 338 million downloads. They spent an astronomical $2 billion on Meta advertising alone in 2023. Meta reported that revenue from China doubled entirely because of Temu's spending. Meta employees joked that Temu should send them thank you cards for all the money. Other platforms like Etsy complained that Temu's massive ad spending inflated costs for everyone. But what really trapped users wasn't the advertising, it was how addictive Temu became. Retail analyst Neil Saunders compared Temu to sugar addiction. The low prices triggered dopamine hits that made customers crave more purchases. The deliberately chaotic interface created a treasure hunt feeling. Users felt like they might discover an incredible bargain if they just kept scrolling. This turned Temu into a digital thrift store that never closed. Temu weaponized gamification with features designed specifically to hook users. Daily spin wheels offered random discounts, creating gambling-like excitement. Countdown timers created artificial urgency. Deal expires in 3 hours. Limited time, free shipping made customers feel they had to order immediately. Products constantly showed fake scarcity messages to inflate demand. The most addictive feature was Temu Circle, their $4 monthly loyalty program. Members got cash back that increased the more they spent, a perfect addiction loop. Spend $100, get $18 back in credit that you could only use on Temu. It was a loyalty trap disguised as generous rewards. The average user spent 24 minutes per day browsing Temu. That's more than double Amazon's 11 minutes of daily engagement. Temu had successfully turned shopping into an addictive mobile game. But here's where Temu's story gets absolutely insane. Some products weren't just cheap, they were completely free. Free earphones, free phone cases, free kitchen gadgets. How do you give away products and still run a business? The answer: you don't run a profitable business, at least not initially. During their explosive 2023 growth, Temu lost $30 on every single American order. Think about that. The average order cost $25, but they lost 30. They were literally paying customers to take their products. Industry experts estimated Temu burned through $1 billion in 2023 alone. They pressured Chinese manufacturers to slash prices even further. This made earning any profit literally impossible for the suppliers. But PDD Holdings had done this exact strategy before in China. They owned platforms like Pinduoduo that exploded using identical loss leader tactics. The strategy: lose massive amounts of money to gain market dominance, then raise prices. Temu didn't care about immediate profits, they wanted to kill Amazon. But success came with serious problems lurking beneath Temu's shiny surface. Customer complaints started flooding in, packages never arrived, mysterious charges appeared. Customer service was practically non-existent, automated responses, and endless hold times. Orders arrived completely wrong. You'd order a phone case and receive random socks. But the real nightmare was what European safety investigators discovered. In late 2023, the European Consumer Organization began testing Temu's cheap products. What they found was genuinely terrifying for consumer safety. Many products had no ingredient lists or completely inaccurate information. Baby toys contained small parts without choking hazard warnings. This is illegal in virtually every developed country and taken extremely seriously. Electric heaters were so dangerous they couldn't legally be sold in the UK. These heaters posed risks of electrical shock or even explosions. Yet Temu had already sold nearly 9,000 units to unsuspecting customers. Cosmetics and sunscreens contained contradictory ingredient information, but the worst findings involved chemicals in children's toys. Plastic toys contained hormone-disrupting chemicals 240 times above legal limits. Slime toys released illegal amounts of borate that could affect children's reproductive systems. These weren't just quality issues. These were products that could seriously harm children. As if dangerous products weren't enough, Temu faced explosive privacy allegations. 2 class action lawsuits accused Temu of secretly harvesting massive amounts of personal data. The app allegedly accessed contacts, camera, microphone, and virtually everything on your phone. Temu collected enormous amounts of data to profile customers perfectly. The problem: they never told users this data collection was happening. This wasn't PDD Holdings' first privacy scandal. In 2023, Google suspended PDD's main app from the Play Store for containing malware. Yes, actual malware, not just privacy violations, but malicious software. Temu was developed by the same team that created the malware-infected app. While no malware was found in Temu, the connection raised serious red flags. Behind all of Temu's impossible prices was their exploitation of a legal loophole. The de minimis rule allowed packages under $800 to enter America tax-free. Most countries had similar rules, but America's limit was the highest globally. Unlike other nations, the US also had no VAT or sales tax on these imports. A US government report called this exploitation a case study in regulatory circumvention. Chinese e-commerce platforms were literally designed to outsmart American regulators. Temu's entire business model was built on paying zero tariffs and zero taxes. That's why their prices were impossibly low. They had massive unfair advantages. Every other retailer had to pay import duties, but Temu sailed through customs free. But Temu's golden age was about to end with a single signature. When Trump returned to the presidency in 2025, he restarted his trade war with China. In February, he imposed a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports. 1 month later, he doubled it to 20%. China retaliated with 84% tariffs on American goods. Trump countered with a devastating 145% tariff, among the highest in history. Caught in the middle was Temu, producing in China but selling primarily in America. The government had been investigating the de minimis loophole since 2023. On April 2nd, Trump signed an executive order eliminating the rules specifically for China. 1 month later, the new rules went into effect and changed everything. The impact on Temu was absolutely devastating. They were no longer exempt from tariffs and suddenly faced up to 145% fees. Prices jumped 25% literally overnight across their entire platform. Shipping became dramatically slower as every package required full customs inspection. Temu panicked and stopped all direct shipments from China to America. They scrambled to fulfill orders from massive warehouses inside the United States. But the damage was already done. Their core competitive advantage had vanished. Temu was still cheaper than traditional stores, just not ridiculously cheap anymore. The week Temu raised prices, their sales immediately crashed 17%. In the first quarter of 2025, PDD Holdings reported disappointing 10% revenue growth. That sounds okay, but it was far below investor expectations. Even worse, their net profits collapsed 47% in the same period. Nearly half of their earnings simply disappeared. Prices had risen slightly, but their costs had absolutely exploded. After the earnings announcement, PDD Holdings stock plummeted 14% in one day. Temu immediately slashed their advertising budget by 31%. Google shopping campaigns were canceled and their ads virtually disappeared. The app that was constantly in the top 5 downloads fell to number 58. In the last week of April, total downloads crashed by a devastating 78%. Active weekly users dropped 43% as people simply stopped using the app. Their meteoric rise had officially and spectacularly ended. Temu's collapse revealed fundamental problems with globalized e-commerce. Other platforms like Etsy could finally breathe as advertising costs normalized. American manufacturers who couldn't compete with tax-free imports saw hope. Consumer safety organizations worldwide took notice of the dangerous product findings. The collapse sparked debates about regulating ultra-cheap overseas platforms. So will Temu disappear completely? Probably not. Millions of people still use the platform despite the price increases. They still have strong financial backing from their $100 billion parent company. But they're no longer the Amazon killer that investors believe they could become. Even if tariffs decrease in the future, they'll never see the same explosive growth. Consumers learned that even free products aren't worth it if they're dangerous. Trust, once broken, is incredibly difficult to rebuild in e-commerce. Temu's story teaches us that building a business on legal loopholes is incredibly risky. What seems like a brilliant competitive advantage can disappear with one law change. Sustainable businesses need more than just regulatory arbitrage and negative margins. Customer safety and data privacy aren't optional, they're fundamental requirements. Even billion-dollar marketing budgets can't save a fundamentally flawed business model. Have you ever ordered anything from Temu? What was your experience like? Let me know in the comments if you think Temu will survive this collapse. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into business failures, hit that subscribe button. I break down the biggest corporate collapses and business scandals every week. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.